fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got with the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up the
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
It's Thursday night here on SimSpeed TV, and you know what that means? Speedway night. Once again, it's the Oceanic Dirt Sim Events 360 Power Series. This is the Super F Series Spares Silver Cup at the Grove. Yes, we come to Williams Grove for round 9 of 12 in what has turned out to be quite the intriguing championship. My name is Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box once again, Cameron Dance. Cam, we're now into the final quarter of this season after this round, and things are just continuing to heat up. And we come to one of the most historic tracks in the United States to do it.
Yes, certainly. It's going to be a fantastic night of racing here at Williams Grove. Like you said, one of the oldest dirt tracks in America. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here. It's one of the tougher tracks here, obviously being a paperclip sort of track like what we saw at USA. So it's going to be quite fascinating to see what the different lines are going to be and who ends up coming out on top.
Yes, indeed. 21st of May, 1939 is when Williams Grove first opened, and it's barely changed a bit since. It still brings excellent racing with its paperclip layout. You see how long the straights are and how tight the turns are comparatively as well. A reasonable amount of banking too. Beautiful aerial shot of this half a mile dirt oval, 804 meters long, wide in turn 1, and there's a small rut on the back straight by the fence as you pass under that blue bridge on the left. That could certainly end a few drivers' races if they take it wrong in these 360 sprint cars.
Yeah, there certainly is. It looks like it's a simple track, but it's definitely not, and it's completely different at each end of the racetrack. You've got a very wide open turn 1 and 2, and then a very short and very sharp turns 3 and 4 as well. So it's a very odd track that there's no one or the other. You've kind of got to work your car and work yourself to try and work around what each turn is doing. It's going to be completely different. You might find that it's going to be low in 1 and 2 or high in 3 and 4 or the other way around sort of thing. So yeah, it's a really dynamic track and really, really good to race on.
It certainly is, and the drivers will be trying to sort out their placings in the championship standings here in the ODSE 360 Power Series. In terms of the championship, we have got a very close battle for the very top. Joel Berkeley just trails Tim Ryan by 15 points for the lead of the championship. Tim Ryan's last few rounds have not been kind to him, but Joel Berkeley has taken the last few A-main wins on the trot, so he's rapidly surging to the top in this second half of the season.
Yeah, he certainly is, and it's only going to be a matter of time before Joel ends up taking the championship lead. So we'll see what happens in these last 4 rounds, and whether we end up having Tim Ryan dominate again, or whether Joel Berkeley steals the champagne away.
It's also a very close battle for 6th place. That's Brenton Hobson, Ryan Harrison, Trent Gosley, only separated by 4 points. So at the end of this round, that particular championship battle could look completely different coming out of Williams Grove. And Gavin Sadler there in the top 10 for now. Caden Brown trails him by only 33 points. So considering that you get points for pretty much every session over the course of a night, you need to keep that consistency up.
Yeah, you certainly do. You just need to keep getting every single point that you possibly can. Even if you have a bad night, you end up at the back of the A main, for example, it's still going to be all about just keeping on going and making sure you can pickup places that people might end up coming to the pits or tow back or have the race ended. So it's really just getting all as many points as you can towards that championship. And if you're someone who's in that hunt in the bottom half of the top 10, you like you said, it's so close that you really can't afford to have a slip up at all.
Yeah, you certainly can't. And drivers like Harry Stewart, Lewis Hewitt, and Bradley Oldfield in third, fourth, and fifth, well, they're starting to lose their grip on that championship lead that Tim Ryan holds. Yes, mathematically, they can still close that gap in the last few rounds of this season, but that's much easier said than done at the best of times.
Yeah, certainly it very, very much is. But we'll see what happens tonight. Anything can and probably will happen, and same with the next 4 rounds. So yeah,
Yeah, we're racing in pure daylight conditions here at Williams Grove, so it's a pretty warm track, 31 degrees Celsius. Not much of a wind either, so it's certainly going to make for some very hot conditions out there. Once that groove comes in on the racing line, it's going to be incredibly slick. That's when you're going to start seeing drivers experiment with where they put their cars.
yeah, certainly. And track very, very fresh at the moment, but it is with, like you said, being quite warm. It is going to actually dry up reasonably quickly as well. So probably you find a lot of drivers experimenting with various different lines to see what works and what doesn't in these few minutes before we go into qualifying, and just try and get a feel of what the track might do as we go further and further into the night, or what sort of pace is going to be for qualifying.
Yes, indeed. And should point out that over the course of the racing tonight, the drivers will be voting on whether or not to reset the track wear. Just before the A main or just before the shootout, because we have seen in many previous rounds as the track evolves over the course of a night, it becomes incredibly difficult to keep the cars going even remotely straight around some of the tracks that iRacing has on the service. So a nice clean track for finishing off the night would certainly be nice, but I know there are a few drivers out there who don't like driving on clean tracks.
Yeah, certainly. There's certainly drivers out there who much prefer a blacked out, rubbered up track. So, and then there's others who prefer a much fresher one. It's a personal preference at the end of the day, and can somewhat depend on your setup as well. Obviously, some drivers not quite so good in slick conditions or having a setup that's so tight enough to suit the conditions, whereas some are more able to have a looser setup and work better in the cleaner conditions. So yeah, it's sort of a personal preference and setup thing, but at the end of the day, it's one of those things about dirt racing. You've kind of just got to take what you've got and just try and work around it.
Exactly right. And in terms of the format tonight, there's going to be another slight curveball, one coming back from Kokomo just a few rounds ago. After the heats are all done, the top two from every heat will come together in one session and have a shootout for the pole position start in the A main. It's similar to what we have in touring car racing here in Australia. Every driver gets the track to themselves for one lap, and they just set the best time that they possibly can. And that is how we will decide pole for tonight. Williams Grove, certainly a difficult track to drive around on your own.
Yeah, certainly. It's a very technical track, probably one of the more technical ones. Obviously, like we talked about earlier, two different ends of the racetrack, a tighter 3 and 4 and a much wider open 1 and 2. So yeah, it does make it quite tricky to try and navigate, and does make the track form in very odd ways that you wouldn't see in various other tracks, which are pretty much the same the whole way around. So it does make it quite fascinating to watch and just see the various different ways that drivers head into corners and also um, drive through them. But yeah, it's a really, really good circuit, and just one that's quite enjoyable.
I am interested to see racing around Williams Grove because I am pretty new to a lot of speedway in general, but certainly for Williams Grove, I don't think I've ever seen a race here, real or virtual. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the racing works out. This track is the same length as the giant tracks of Eldora and Volusia that we visited earlier on in the season, but a very different configuration here at Williams Grove. It's much flatter, the turns are much tighter, the straights are much longer. So it's a bit less reliance on downforce and a bit more of a reliance on a car that has low drag for the straights, but you need it to be pointy to turn into those very tight corners.
Yes, certainly. You might find this is one of those tracks where drivers are actually going to probably adjust their wings a lot more than what we've seen in the previous rounds. Obviously, because you've got that wider turn 1 and 2, you're able to run it slightly further back just to help you keep the car stable and get the drive off the corner. Whereas in 3 and 4, you're probably going to want to push it more forward to try and get the thing to bite into the corner instead of wanting to wash out towards that outside wall. So it's a really technical track and just does make it that much harder for setting the car up.
The drivers have finished their pre-event briefing and are now out on track, just seeing the lay of the land, so to speak, and you get a really good sense of just how long the straights are here at Williams Grove and how much rotation is required to get the car through these very tight turns. But you're going straight for a very long time.
Yes, certainly, and I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but this is probably one of the only tracks that you're going to actually properly use the brake in, especially when it does try to start to slick a lot up and you're trying to sort of either hug the bottom or sort of run the top a little bit on that very, very edge where it does get quite rough. So it's a really, really hard track, and it's going to be very interesting to see what sort of things people do to try and make it work, whether they run a very far forward wing or very far back and use the brake. It's really just going to be so difficult for a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, and we're already seeing the double grooves start to form and drivers really testing the limits. Here's Tim Ryan, the championship leader, making that middle line work in this practice session before we get into qualifying. And Tim has been one of the drivers to watch throughout the whole season, of course, by virtue of leading the championship, but also the displays of driving that we've seen from him throughout the season. Once he gets up in front, there is no stopping Tim Ryan.
Yeah, 100%. He is an absolute machine as Tim Ryan just puts his car where he wants it, points it, and drives it as fast as he possibly can. And like you said, once he's up front, he's pretty much gone and no one's going to catch him. So we'll see what he does tonight. He's not quite been too strong here in the past, but he has had some decent pace. So we'll see whether he can have the nice pace that he's had over the previous few rounds. But it will be interesting to see what happens and who can challenge him.
Well, the 4 minutes begins and we will see who can challenge Tim Ryan here at Williams Grove Speedway. Might it be Joel Berkeley once again? We'll have to wait and see. But qualifying is now underway. The drivers have 2 laps to set their time, and that will determine how they start in the heats. Carl Hoffman's one of the first drivers out on track. Carl, one of the drivers that we've seen quite active in and around the midfield up towards the top 10. Bradley Oldfield currently running in 5th place in the championship. And he is a guy that has had his ups and downs over the course of this season.
Yeah, he certainly has. And he showed some really good pace as Oldfield as well. So if he can try and have a bit of luck tonight, he should be able to get a pretty decent result. As had a podium and a few other good solid results. Just had not quite had the luck that he's needed over the course of the championship to sort of put himself up there. But nevertheless, currently P2, so he's doing not too bad.
Yes, indeed. Clayton Davies has just rocketed to the top, 17.816. Damien Rasmussen knocked back to 4th now by Hayden Veld getting P2. And Rasmussen sets another consistent time, stays in P4. What about the number 50? Well, let's see if Clayton Davies decides to come around for another lap. It looks like he is going to be done. Hayden Veld was 2nd. Now he's been knocked back to 3rd because David Heilemann has just gone to the top on a 17.721. That's quite the gap there that he's got. I know that a 1/10 of a second doesn't seem like a huge gap in most racing contexts, but on a dirt speedway, it's practically miles.
Yes, certainly. And this track isn't that long either. So it's quite a lot of time to have a 10th over the rest of the field. I mean, we're not even a kilometre in length in this track. So it's really a lot of time when you actually sit down and think about it. But nevertheless, still a few drivers yet to come across the line and a couple who have not quite in the position that you'd expect, the likes of Joel Berkeley and Jock Goodyear a little bit down the order as well.
Yes, indeed. They are looking very far down compared to where we would usually see them. Berkeley currently in and around the back half of the top 10 with Mr. Goodyear. Brenton Hobson, meanwhile, he looks like he's already set his times and doesn't look like he's going to be able to improve much on a 17.982. Daniel Gow pulling over to bring his qualifying session to an end as well. It looks like the vast majority of drivers are done, but we are still waiting on Tim Ryan because he's a driver that usually comes out at the very last moment in these qualifying sessions. So he gets full TV time as he sets his qualifying times.
Yeah, a little bit cheeky there by Tim. Just to probably waits a bit just to see what sort of benchmark is to aim for. But like you said, possibly could be doing it for a bit of TV time to getting it right up there. But nevertheless, coming down the back straight for his first lap, running right up against the outside and not quite up against the fence, but reasonably close as he comes across the line. 17.73 P2 after his first lap. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, only 100th behind David Heilemann. So this is going to be the lap that defines Tim Ryan's qualifying session, running all the way out to the wall, carrying as much momentum as he can. And that's going to be a 17.748, not able to improve on the time. So David Heilemann runs the fastest time in qualifying. And that means that Tim Ryan will be making his first start in Heat 2 as we take a look at Vince Romeo's run.
Yeah, Vince obviously currently quite far down the order, actually, not in the best of places. Currently sitting all the way down in 34th, but nevertheless, that is qualifying done.
Certainly is, and here is the grid for Heat 1. David Heilemann starting on pole with Clayton Davies sharing the front row with him. Brad O'Brien and Bradley Oldfield sharing row 2. Jordison and Hobson come up row 3. Oh, surprise, surprise. Brenton Hobson starting 6th. Jacob Dixon starts in 7th place with Devin Butts alongside him. Corey Steinhauser and Sean O'Hara completing your 10-car field for this first heat of the night. And heats, Cam, are going to be 8 laps in length, as we've seen throughout the whole of this season. But it's going to be a very hectic 8 laps.
Yeah, certainly is. And it's quite difficult to pass around here as well due to the nature of the track being a little bit tighter on one end of the track and then a lot more open. So you've kind of got a little bit of a recipe for disaster possibly, and you might find some drivers having a little bit of an unfortunate moment into turn 1 where they go in a little bit too deep and hit that inside wall, or even in 3 and 4 where they go in a little bit too deep and hit the inside wall. So it's going to be really all about survival of the fittest around here, especially when the track slicks up, but we'll see what happens.
Yep, pace truck moves away and the drivers will tour behind for 2 laps as they prepare for this first heat of the night. I want to give a big shout out to Super F Series Spares for your support of this series and of this event. Super F Series Spares, also the title sponsor of the first round of this season. A big thanks to all of you for coming along with your support. And if you want some spare parts for your Ford F Series truck, they're certainly the place to go. In terms of prize money, there's $10 to win each week, courtesy of ZP Images. That goes to the winner of the A main at the end of the night. And also $5, courtesy of Simpson Safety Australia Queensland, for the hard charger, the driver that makes up the most positions over the course of the A main. So every driver has something to race for tonight.
Yeah, they certainly do. There's quite a lot on the line tonight, especially with the likes of points and various other prizes. So you don't end up walking away with nothing at the end of the night, even if you have a little bit of a bad night as well.
Exactly right. Well, now we're getting to crunch time, and David Heilemann will be the one leading these guys away off the start. But one of the interesting things about Williams Grove that I have yet to see is just who has the advantage on the start, inside or outside. It's been slightly different depending on which track we've gone to. But in goes the pace truck, and now Heilemann will control the field, slams down the throttle outside of the last turn, and we are away. We are racing at the Super F Series Spares Silver Cup. First heat of the night, and Heilemann's got a nice clean lead there over Clayton Davies. The field forming up very nicely.
Yeah, very good start there by Heilemann to get the jump and put himself into the lead of the race. But it's all on for that final transfer spot back and forth. And as well as 5th, Brenton Hobson coming under pressure from Dale Jordison. He's going to throw a big slide job as Hobson, but not quite going to get the pass done.
Airedale Jordanson runs back in line there. Slide job by Devon Butts. He wants to get Jacob Dixon and Brenton Hobson at once, but that unfortunately is not successful for him. In terms of the lead, it looks like David Heilemann has it covered, but Bradley Oldfield trying the slide job on second place Clayton Davies, and that's brought him into an attack from Brad O'Brien, who sends it right back. We got a car in the wall in the background. Who is that? That's very disconcerting. It looked like it was Corey Steinhauser who had found the wall just then, so a big shame for him. But for third place, the battle continues. Brad O'Brien actually manages to get up the inside of Bradley Oldfield, who finds the wall. And now he's back into the attacking pack of Hobson, Butts, Jordanson, and Dixon. This is looking interesting.
Yeah, very, very hotly contested is this final transfer spot, and everybody just running a little bit too high, trying to run as high as they possibly can, and ending up with a big incident in the background.
Oh yeah, Jacob Dixon trying the slide job there, but he just had too much momentum and went straight into the cars he was trying to pass. One of the pitfalls of racing at Williams Grove is, I think the slide job is a very attractive proposition. The penultimate lap begins for our leader, David Heilemann, who seems to have it covered very nicely. That battle for third looks to be still on though. Brad O'Brien currently holds it, but Oldfield is starting to chase.
Yeah, he certainly is starting to chase his Oldfield, but he may run out of laps here as the car of Brad O'Brien still running that high side, and just behind them, they're really duking it out as Butts and Jordanson, who are really going at it for fifth place. So it's all going on at the moment in the middle of the field, but looks like David Heilemann is going to walk away with this one.
Certainly is. Comes out of the final turn and crosses the line to take the win in the first heat of the night at Williams Grove. Excellent performance. Just started from pole and did not look back. Clayton Davies takes second, and Brad O'Brien gets himself a ticket into the feature. Oldfield and Butts complete the top 5. They will have another chance, along with everyone else in this heat, to get into the A main once we get into the alphabet towards the end of the night. So you'll see those guys again. Heat 2 is time, and Tim Ryan is going to be starting on pole, with Dylan DeBono sharing the front row with him. Brett Wheeler and Tyler Bish on row 2. Ethan Bastian and Daniel Gow on row 3. Row 4, Ryan Harris and John Schultz, with Vince Romeo and Gavin Sadler rounding out the field for the second heat. That's quite the interesting field. Gavin Sadler currently 10th in the championship. He could certainly stand to gain, and Ryan Harris, of course, he's got to think about fighting for 6th in the championship with Brenton Hobson, so he'll need to get to the finish of this one cleanly.
Yes, certainly a number of drivers within their little points battle who need to try and get as many points as they possibly can in this heat race. Obviously, like you said, Ryan Harris and Gavin Sadler in pretty heated battles in the championship for their little group, but nevertheless, we'll see what happens in this race.
We certainly shall. Tim Ryan starting on pole. The general logic based on what's happened over the course of this season is that once that green flag flies, Ryan is just going to stay there in P1 and jet away. But we can't discount the likes of Dylan DeBono and Brett Wheeler. They're certainly drivers that can keep up when it comes to dirt speedway. The pace truck is going to stay out for one more lap here before we go racing. Ethan Bastian starting from 5th. Another one of the drivers that has had luck not go his way over the course of this season.
Yeah, certainly. He's had some pretty alright pace as the car of Ethan Bastian, but just seems to end up getting caught up in really unfortunate incidents and not having luck go his way, unfortunately. So we'll see what he can do here from P5 on the grid. If he gets a good start, he should be able to get inside that transfer spot of 4th place, but nevertheless, we'll see what happens.
Yes, indeed. Final run down the back straight at about 60 kilometers an hour before the green flag drops. Pace truck will pull ahead and go straight for the pit lane here. And it looks like from David Heilemann's start that Tim Ryan will be looking to do much of the same. Middle of the last turn, slams the power down and already has a gap over 2nd and 3rd as they cross the line. There goes Wheeler trying to go up the inside.
Oh, Harris got the inside wall.
Oh, he did too, and then he got Ethan Bastian and Daniel Gow on the outside as well. Both of those guys put to the back. So Ethan Bastian's race not off to the best start. Ryan Harris not getting off to a great start either.
Yeah, certainly. And like we talked about, very, very easy to hit that inside wall as well on the way into turn one when you're trying to throw it in there as hard as you possibly can to get a nice run. But nevertheless, everybody seems to have come away unscathed, maybe slight bit of damage, but who knows? And Tim Ryan making an unforced error out of the final corner, just clipping the outside wall too, and is going to come under pressure from Brett Wheeler now.
Yeah, he is. Wheeler has been running that inside line all heat long, and he's done a very good job of it. There goes Ryan to the inside. He's taken the hint, but it looks like it hasn't gotten better for him. Wheeler right on the back of him now. Tim Ryan's going to have to hold the outside line here and try and get some momentum down the straight, but it looks like Wheeler's just managed to get him on the exit, and he throws it into turns 3 and 4. Ryan getting a better run on the outside out of 4. He keeps the lead just for now, but as this race enters its final half, we've got a great battle for the lead on here between Tim Ryan and Brett Wheeler. Wheeler trying to hook up the throttle again, but Ryan's momentum just too great to overcome.
Yeah, certainly. The outside seems to be working very, very well for Tim. He doesn't want to hit that outside wall again and decides to go slightly lower into turn 1 and 2 as well that time, just to try and build himself a little bit of a gap over Brett Wheeler, which he seems to have done quite nicely and is using the low side now in 3 and 4 to try and hold off Brett Wheeler. But they're going to have 2 to go this time by, so he's going to have to try and work for it.
Tim Ryan for Logitech G Altus Esports, Brett Wheeler for United Esports. Both of them battling super hard for this top spot in the second heat of the night. Tim Ryan tries parking it on the apex, gets off to a slow start out of the corner, and Wheeler is forced into having to back off himself. So this might have given Ryan the advantage that he needs. He is ahead of Wheeler out of turn 2, and it looks like he goes to the inside, Wheeler going to the outside. So both of them trying the other's strategy, but it's not going to be enough for Wheeler. Tim Ryan comes across the line to take the win. An excellent job. So both he and Wheeler get straight through into the A main. Dylan DeBono managed to hold off Tyler Bish to get that 3rd spot.
Yeah, it was definitely all on just behind them, just inside the top 10 for the likes of Sadler, Harris, and Bastian, all scrapping it out in those last 2 laps or so for those final few spots, but unfortunately not going to be making it through to the A main.
Well, Heat 3 is now on. It's going to be Caden Brown starting from pole. He is battling with Gavin Sadler for 10th in the championship, only 33 points behind him. Zach Fellon sharing the first row with him. Jock Goodyear starts from 3rd. I'm interested to see where he can go from there. Mitchell G alongside him. Aston Hurley starting from 5th place. Another driver who we'd be looking for to see what he can do. Thomas Mitchell, Bradley Sanders, Carl Hoffmans, Cruz McVie, and Zach Howell, the rest of your field for the 3rd heat of the night. So 2 names immediately jump out to me there, Jock Goodyear and Aston Hurley. But aside from those 2, we do have a very consistent field here. Brown, Fellon, Mitchell, Sanders, McVie. This is a good field.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's anyone's guess as to who's going to come away at the top 4 transfer spots and who's going to end up going through to that shootout later on with those top 2 transferring to that. So, yeah, it'll be quite interesting to see who ends up coming away with this and who ends up transferring through. It's a really, really even field, like you're seeing. There's no real obvious contenders apart from Jock Goodyear as to who could possibly come away with this one.
Well, it's going to be a difficult 8 laps for this field, and I'm certainly of the opinion Jock Goodyear would probably be hoping for some better luck than he's had in the past. I mean, we've seen over the last couple of rounds how he's put himself up into excellent positions, but last week he actually ran out of fuel at USA International Speedway, so it's obviously not been the best season ever for Jock Goodyear, but you can tell he can get his foot in the door when he wants to.
Yes, certainly you can, and it's just all about timing it, especially here with the track and the nature of it, and it's just being patient, timing your moves as best as you possibly can.
Well, that is a very well-timed move from Caden Brown to start this. He has a huge lead over everyone else as they come into turn one. Goodyear trying to stake his claim for that second place, but through comes Mitchell G in the middle, or tries to at the very least. It's going to be Zach Felon with the run, and he holds on to second. Goodyear flinging it into the final turns at the track and assuming the outside line. Meanwhile, it's all going on behind them. Oh, a big hit for the inside wall for Mitchell G. And that's not going to work out well for him. He's going to go more towards the back. He's now facing up against Hoffmans, McVie, and Zach Howell. But Caden Brown up the front, looks like he's got that lead sorted beautifully. Goodyear now up into second. It's a three-way battle for the second spot on the podium.
Yeah, Goodyear coming under pressure, well, getting a lot of pressure from Hurley here, and then Hurley is obviously going to have Fallon not too far behind as well. So these two really scrapping it out for this final few spots on the podium, and the final few transfer spots is contact there with the wall. But if they're not careful, they're going to have the rest of the field coming up because they're not too far behind as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Around a track like Williams Grove, where you do have mechanical grip as an element, you don't want to battle too hard and slow each other up because the drivers behind you will just slide right onto your bumper. Looks like Goodyear and Hurley have cleared the rest of the field. Bradley Sanders now falling back with Thomas Mitchell and Mitchell G. So it looks to me like the battle is no longer three-way for that second place spot, but behind them all, drivers continuing to find the best place to get the most grip out here. Mitchell G looks like he really loves that inside line.
Yeah, he's really trying to make that inside work as Mitchell G is car slow in the background. That's actually Zach Felon.
What has happened to him? He's actually had to go for the pits there, and he's made contact with the pit entry wall. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. It seems like he didn't really have a crash. He might have accidentally had his qualifying fuel load in the car.
Yeah, I do have to wonder if he possibly has underfueled the car and not been able to make the full distance. It's really, really odd to see such a mistake from someone like that, Zach Fallon, but nevertheless, that promotes Bradley Sanders into the final transfer spot, who's got Thomas Mitchell and Mitchell G not too far behind him as well.
Yes, indeed, but it's lap 8 of 8, and Caden Brown comes across the line to take victory. Jock Goodyear comes home in second with Aston Hurley in third place. So it looks like that is how the field is going to go, and car on its side coming down the back straight. That's something that you always like to see. We move straight through into Heat 4. So Joel Berkeley and Hayden Veld taking up the first row of the grid. Danny Vassell and Damian Rasmussen behind them. Norman and Gosley as well. Gosley, one of the drivers fighting for that 6th place in the championship with Brenton Hobson and Ryan Harris. Kieran Redpath and Hayden McCandy on row 4 with Lockie Beattie and Hayden Pascoe rounding out the 10-car field. And now Joel Berkeley, the driver that has been the star of the show over the last few rounds of the series, taking the A-main victory the last few rounds running on the trot. This is it's been a great run from Joel Berkeley, and he'll be looking to continue it here tonight.
Yeah, certainly will. Coming off the back of a 2nd place at Volusia on Tuesday in the World of Outlaws World Championship Series as well. So a lot of momentum coming into tonight for Joel. Unfortunately, was surprisingly disappointed with the 2nd. Not quite sure how that works, but nevertheless, we'll see what happens here tonight. And obviously, starting on pole in this heat is going to give him the best advantage to try and win it and then put himself into the shootout and try and challenge Tim Ryan.
Beautiful sweeping shot of Williams Grove Speedway here. It's in a very idyllic looking location, but the racing is anything but idyllic around here, as you have seen tonight. And Williams Grove, a very popular place in the USA Speedway schedule. It's one of the tracks that, as we said, has been around the longest out of many of the dirt tracks in America. But its nature and its location as well have meant that it is one of the most popular tracks in the nation.
Yes, certainly. It's located in not too far, well, in the most pretty much popular place you could possibly put it in Pennsylvania. So there's about 3 dirt tracks, I believe, in Pennsylvania. So it's obviously being one of the oldest and putting on awesome shows. It's, yeah, really, really popular. But nevertheless, we'll see what this race puts on.
Yes, indeed. It's only going to be one more corner before Joel Berkeley puts the hammer down and takes us into the 4th and final heat of the night. Only going to be 4 heats, so we're going to get through this nice and quickly. And he goes in the middle of the last turn once again. The rest of the field have no answer. Joel Berkeley leads into turn 1. Have a look at Danny Vassell securing that second place beautifully with the mother of all slide jobs. Oh my goodness, Damian Rasmussen caught right in the middle of that 3 wide. I have no idea how all of them made it through that.
I really don't know either. Oh, and a bit of tussle back through the behind. Hayden Pascoe, Hayden McCandy, and Kyron Redpath all involved in that, but they're all still scrapping for that final transfer spot.
Yeah, they certainly are. Have a look at this. So, holding the lead currently is Joel Berkeley. Currently holding third is Hayden Veld. But that 4th place battle, these guys all trying to advance through to that podium. It's currently headed up by Nathan Norman. And right behind him, Rasmussen, then Gosley, then Beattie. That's your 4-car pack. And Gosley and Rasmussen seem to be the closest battlers out of these guys. Gosley with a huge run here out of the final corner, but he doesn't have the space on the outside to get the run on Rasmussen. Has to stay behind for one more corner. And oh my goodness, big slide job attempt from Lockie Beattie. Went straight into Gosley. He's come off second best out of that. Gosley continues.
Yeah, not too ideal there, unfortunately, but Gosley's going to be pretty happy to keep on going there after that incident, but all going on for that final transfer spot between Damien Rasmussen, Nathan Norman, and Hayden Veld. It's really heating up, especially between Rasmussen and Norman.
Yes, indeed. Have a look at Nathan Norman trying the slide job on Hayden Veld, just managing to pull it up in the middle of turn 4. The challenge of the slide job is being able to maintain that momentum, to park it on the apex in front of your rival at exactly the right time that they can't get a run on you. Unfortunately, it looks like Nathan Norman isn't quite far up enough on Hayden Veld to take advantage of that.
Yeah, not quite close enough at the moment. He's trying everything he possibly can as Nathan Norman to find a way past Hayden Veld, but just can't quite get it done, and is only just holding off Damien Rasmussen as well. So if he's not careful, he's going to end up getting passed here by Rasmussen sooner or later. But with 1 to go, they're running out of time to try and get a move done.
They certainly are, and it looks like that gap between Norman and Veld is a little too great to be taken up in the last lap. Joel Berkeley exits the final turn, and he is going to take the final heat win of the night. An excellent victory for Berkeley. Did not look back. Danny Vassell, a dominant second as well. Great run. And Hayden Veld just manages to hold off Nathan Norman for that transfer spot.
Yeah, great fight there between Nathan Norman and Damien Rasmussen. Rasmussen unfortunately coming up short, but nevertheless, really, really good fight there.
Yeah, excellent fight. But that brings to an end the heats portion of the night. As the drivers pull over and get back into the pits, they're going to prepare now for the alphabet. And it's going to only be 2 consolation events here before the final race of the night. We got a C main and a B main. And the grid for the C main is as follows. Mitchell G is going to start on pole, with Kieran Redpath sharing the front row with him. Sean O'Hara is joined by Ryan Harris in that 4th spot, with Carl Hoffmans and Hayden Pascoe in the row behind. Jacob Dixon and Ethan Bastian start 7th and 8th, with Zach Howell and Hayden McCandy completing the final row in the top 10. 4 more cars joining them here. Corey Steinhauser, Daniel Gow, Zach Fellon, and Lockie Beattie, who had a rather ignominious exit from the last heat. This is going to be the first of 2 races where the drivers have a last chance to get into the A main. The top 2 from this race move forward to the B main, and when the B main is run and won, the top 8 go through to the feature.
Yeah, so for the likes of Zach Fallon, Daniel Gow, Corey Steinhauser, those a little bit down the order, really going to have their work cut out for them to try and get into those top 2 positions. Going to be hotly contested are those top 2, with Mitchell G and Kyron Redpath on that front row as well. And then you've got Ryan Harris and Sean O'Hara just behind them. So a lot of drivers who have potential here to try and get inside that top 2 and taking a steal into the B main. But nevertheless, we'll see who ends up coming out on top.
Indeed we shall. One more lap before we get going for this 8-lap B main. It's going to be 8 laps C main, rather. My apologies. We always seem to get our letters and numbers confused slightly. I've really got to put a stop to that. It's going to be an 8-lap C main. The B main will be 10 laps. So not much of a chance in this race for the drivers to get up the field. It's only the same length as the heats.
Yes, certainly it is the same length as the heat. So no extra 2 laps to try and get it done, but we'll see what happens, and quite the field as well, with it being 14 cars. So it's going to be very, very busy out there, and really going to make it that much harder to try and get through the field.
What can Mitchell G and Kieran Redpath do from the front row? What can Ethan Bastian do from his 8th place start? Now we find out. So begins the C main, and a great start from Mitchell G. Very poor start from Kieran Redpath. Got completely caught out on the start, and that let the inside row come on through. So currently, 2nd place is held by Sean O'Hara. 3rd place, Carl Hoffmans. He slides it up the inside, tries his best to keep the momentum up on the inside. They are side by side coming down the front stretch for the transfer spot, but behind them, it is all going off. Jacob Dixon defending from Ethan Bastian. We got a spinner in the back. Hayden McCandy and Kieran Redpath facing some issues. So Kieran, after starting in 2nd place, unfortunately, a bit of contact with Hayden McCandy, putting him out of contention completely.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Redpath there, especially after starting up the front of the field. But all going on for this final transfer spot between Ryan Harris, Sean O'Hara, and Carl Hoffmans. It's really going off. They're looking left, right, and centre, high and low, all sorts of different directions. It's a big moment for Ryan Harris in the wall.
Oh, yeah, just catching his right rear tyre into the wall. That's put him completely out of contention for that transfer spot battle. We may have to say goodbye to him after this race. So Carl Hoffmans still holding on to that 2nd place. Sean O'Hara trying his best to get the power down. A little mistake from Hoffmans on the exit, a bit too much oversteer, but O'Hara cannot take advantage of that. Have a look at Daniel Gow, Ethan Bastian, and Jacob Dixon behind. They're all fighting as well, but they're slowly launching themselves up to this battle. Here comes Gow on O'Hara.
Yeah, and O'Hara trying to make that high side mid-track work, but not quite able to do it. Very, very slick there in at 3 and 4 on the exit, so very hard to get traction down. But Hoffman's just doing everything he needs to at the moment to just hold on to 2nd place, and they're running out of laps is Daniel Gow and Sean O'Hara, so they need to get a move on or they're going to run out of laps and not make the feature. And in the background, Jacob Dixon riding the outside wall too, so everybody's trying as hard as they possibly can, but just not quite able to get it done.
Yeah, it's the penultimate lap right now, so it looks like it may be Carl Hoffman's taken that transfer spot. Daniel Gow has managed to... oh no, there's contact between Gow and O'Hara. Gow has been turned around in the middle of the last turn. That is a very bad spot to be in. He's going to have to wait for the rest of the field to go by. No, he's decided to bring it back to the garage. But it's the final lap for Mitchell G up in the front. And oh, is he out of fuel? I thought for sure that he'd be out of fuel, but it looks like he isn't. He takes the...
Oh, he was!
He was! He choked on the line, but he still takes the victory in the C main. Carl Hoffmans... get this. The gap at the line was 0.033. How do you like that?
Unbelievably close. I did wonder if he ended up coughing originally to begin with when he first came in turn 3. I saw him slow right down, and I did wonder if he was going to be low on fuel, but it came out of the final corner and it was fine, and then just suddenly started to cough as he came across the line. So really lucky to get away with that one, but nevertheless, B main up.
Yes, indeed, and Mitchell G will have to make doubly sure that he has the right amount of fuel in his car for this one, because it's 2 laps longer than the last race, and they're going to be starting at the back of the grid, RG and Hoffmans, but the rest of the grid is as follows. On pole, Bradley Oldfield, Tyler Bish joins him on the front row, Bradley Sanders and Nathan Norman behind them, Devin Butts and John Schultz on the 3rd row. Mitchell and Rasmussen starting in 8th and 9th, and with Vince Romeo rounding out the top 10, starting behind the pace car out on track at the moment. McVie, Gosley, Hobson, Sadler, G and Hoffmans, the last 6 cars on the grid. So a little bit of a bigger field for this one. 2 more laps, but My goodness, we've got some interesting competitors in this one. Both Oldfield and Bish have shown that they can bring it to the big guns in this series if they so desire. John Schultz certainly cannot be underrated in a sprint car. And Trent Gosley starting from 12th, well, we would expect him further up the pointy end of most grids, so I'm looking for him to advance potentially.
Definitely a number of drivers who could advance into the A main. Obviously, 8 places that will go through to the A main. So a few more opportunities to go through instead of only the top two, but still a very, very busy track with 16 cars and going to be very hotly contested are those top 8 positions with this field that we've got.
That is indeed the case. And Oldfield has had some experience starting on the outside in the heats. He started in 4th in Heat 1, and we've noticed that the inside line certainly has the advantage. I mean, it does at most places, but the effect seems to be exaggerated at Williams Grove as the green flag flies and Bradley Oldfield, as expected, makes a very good getaway. Bradley Sanders manages to snatch away second. Oldfield in the wall, and that is potentially going to let Sanders through into the lead here. Side by side down the back stretch. There's a big crash in the background. It's Vince Romeo and Nathan Norman involved in that one. So it looks like their nights are now over. But up the front, Bradley Sanders crossing the line in the lead. He and Oldfield fighting for the win in the B main. Remember, the top 8 come through to the feature. In terms of that final transfer spot, it is 100% on. Look at all of these cars competing for that same spot.
Yeah, certainly. You've got the likes of McVie, Jordison, Mitchell, and all those different drivers trying to get in there. Brenton Hobson as well, looking on the bottom side of the racetrack, going to get 2 for 1 into, well, out of turn 2. A little bit of contact as well, but it's very, very busy back there, and you're really not going to want to get involved in an incident as nearly 3 wide and 4 wide in various parts. More contact going on.
Yeah, Gavin Sadler and Tyler Bish just locking wheels down the front stretch. Easy to do. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa. That is big. Brenton Hobson and Dale Jordison both on their sides there. Huge shame for them.
Quite sure what's actually gone on there, and it looks like a bit of a checkup happened between Cruz McVie and Dale Jordison, unfortunately. And Jordison, unfortunately, ending up spinning out, and then Thomas Mitchell nowhere to go, and same with Hobson. So, really unfortunate for a number of drivers there, and that's promoted Carl Hoffman's up into the top 8, all the way from 16th on the grid.
Excellent stuff from Carl Hoffman's. Things have gone slightly worse for Bradley Oldfield because he has lost second now. Devin Butts currently holds second place and is rapidly chasing down Sanders for the lead.
He is. He's got some really good paces, but at the moment, compared to the likes of Sanders, he was a little bit slower that last time by, but equaling pace pretty much with him, and Oldfield's actually quicker than both of them. So this is going to be a really close fight between these top 3, but that final transfer spot really contested hotly between Sadler and Mitchell at the moment.
Yes, Sadler and Thomas Mitchell, with Mitchell getting, there was a whisper of a slightly good run onto the front stretch, but not able to get the power down. Sadler is making that inside line work beautifully, straightening up the exit so that he gets a lovely run down the straight. Just throws it straight back to the inside for the turns. We're coming up to the penultimate lap now. Only 2 laps left for crunch time. Currently, Mitchell holding on to that 7th. Currently in 8th is Carl Hoffman's. Trent Gosley chasing him down for that transfer spot. But up the front, looks to me like Bradley Sanders has gotten away with this as he begins the final lap. Devin Butts and Bradley Oldfield, though, remains to be seen. Butts getting a good exit out of the second turn. It looks like he may have just covered Oldfield off. He might have just done enough. Who else has done enough is Bradley Sanders, taking the win in the B main. Excellent job right off the start. He saw the opportunity and he took it. That 8th place battle, though, yet to be decided, and it looks like it's going to be Carl Hoffman's who takes it by 7/10 over Trent Gosley. So everyone ahead of 8th place, we will see them in the A main, but everyone else, unfortunately, we say goodbye to them for this night of racing.
Fortunately, a number of drivers missing out on the A main who very much could have had it go their way. But Carl Hoffman's an amazing drive to end up getting P8 to make it through to the A main after starting all the way down in 16th, the last position in the field. So really, really good drive there. But now it's top 8 shootout.
It certainly is, and I'm looking forward to this one. Every driver gets one lap around Williams Grove to set the best time they possibly can and take pole position for the A main here tonight. Looks like due to there only being 4 heats and the top 2 from each heat going on through, it is just going to be these 8 cars, the first of which is Danny Vassell. Once he comes round to start this lap, we'll be able to see what kind of pace he has under his belt with a track that is looking very different from when we started the night. Have a look at how big that groove is now.
A lot of loose dirt being thrown around from various people just trying different lines and all sorts of other things. And Vassal trying a low line through turns 1 and 2 to see if there's any grip down there. Appears to be a bit of grip, and he's got a nice drive off turn 1 and 2. Uses the low line in 3 and 4 as well. So it seems to be the preferred line at the moment. Has a little bit of wheel spin on the exit of 4, so it's not going to be a good exit, but we'll see what the lap time is. It's going to be 19.792.
Very nice. 19.792 from Danny Vassal. And Jock Goodyear has just come around to begin his run at pole. He's using that high line all the way through in the first couple of turns and in 3 and 4 as well. Don't want to get too close to the wall, though, because you'll get a contact 0x. Across the line goes Jock Goodyear. That's a 19.434. So that, wow, 3/10. I mean, we were talking before about 1/10 being miles and speedway, but how about 3/10?
Great lap there by Jock to actually get that sort of a gap on the next car of Danny Vassal. Vassal not having the best exit on out of turn 4 as well, remember, so would have compromised himself a little bit. But Brett Wheeler coming out of turn number 4 now, right up against the inside guardrail with a nice exit as well. Comes across the line, 19.294, so up to P1.
Wow, excellent job from Brett Wheeler as the car behind him begins his lap. Clayton Davies now taking his run at pole, so currently on top. Clayton Davies running that high line. We'll see how well he can go. Can he beat Brett Wheeler's 19.2? No, he cannot. It's a 19.66. Well, that puts him ahead of Vassal at least.
Certainly does. It's better than starting in 8th, is starting in 7th, but we'll see what happens for Joel Berkeley, who is now the man out on track, running right up against the outside fence and then diamonding off on the exit of 4 to start his laps. Comes across the line to end up going low into turn 1 like Danny Vassal did. So an interesting line compared to the likes of Davies and Goodyear, who did run a high line in 1 and 2, but we'll see what Berkeley does in 3 and 4. Goes low as well in 3 and 4, and I think he might have just clipped the wall there. If not, he was very lucky to miss it, but comes across the line, and it's going to be a 19.433, so puts himself P2.
Yeah, just a thousandth of a second ahead of Jock Goodyear. So currently 2nd place in that shootout session. Good run from Joel Berkeley. Next car to take a look at is Caden Brown. And he's firing it all the way through to the inside, almost looking like a bit of understeer coming into the corners, but threw it out onto the start-finish straight. His lap time, a 19.666.
Puts himself just ahead of Danny Vassal and just behind Clayton Davies by 0.006 of a second, so very closely. But now Tim Ryan is out on track. What can the man do who's been so dominant over the course of the series? Goes low in 3 and 4 to try and get as much grip as he possibly can. Does get a nice exit out of 3 and 4. Comes across the line. It's going to be a 19.267 straight to the top for Tim Ryan.
Excellent stuff, and that is 0.03 of a second faster than Brett Wheeler's current fastest time. So Tim Ryan with a great run indeed, and David Heilemann now, the winner of the first heat of the night, stakes his claim for pole position. Last time he drove this track, it was pretty much clean. There wasn't a huge groove going across the entirety of the corners, so he's got a bit of a different environment to work with, has Heilemann, using the inside, keeping the rear end nice and stable, and it's going to be a 19.056 straight to P1. Just slam that down. and walk away.
Always trust the Hylomaniac to lay down a lap that just absolutely blows everyone out of the water. So great lap by David Heilemann to put himself in P1 for this feature. And he was starting P1 anyway, so he's pretty much sealed that one reasonably easily. And Tim Ryan will join him on the front row. Brett Wheeler and Joel Berkeley will be on row 2. Row 3, Jock Goodyear and Clayton Davies. And row 4 will be Kane Brown and Danny Vassell.
So there you go. The grid has been set for the feature, the A main. It's going to be 30 laps long tonight here at Williams Grove. But before we do that, we're going to go on a very short commercial break. You're watching the Oceanic Dirt Sim Events 360 Power Series. This is the Super F Series Spares Silver Cup at Williams Grove.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's going the outside. Both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys, I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go.
Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
We're SimSpeed TV. You're watching the Oceanic Dirt Sim Events 360 Power Series, the Super F Spares Silver Cup at Williams Grove, round 9 of this 12-round championship. We've gone through the heats, we've gone through the alphabet, we've gone through the shootout as well. We know who is starting on pole. It is going to be David Heilemann. But can Tim Ryan or Joel Berkeley come back and take that spot back from David Heilemann? We will have to wait and see. I'm Reese Gardner, Cameron Dance joining me in the commentary box, and we are live now for the feature. As the drivers grid up, this is not going to be the exact order that they form up in. Once the iRacing pace truck pulls away, the field will be manually reconfigured to reflect what happened in the shootout. So we'll be able to get off to a great start here at Williams Grove. With 30 laps in the A main, Cam, and with the amount of incidents that we've seen in the heat so far, it looks like we may see a caution or two.
May very well see a caution or two, maybe even multiples, who knows? We might even see 0. It's an unknown at this point as to what might happen, but nevertheless, it's been a lot of very close racing all night long and going to be only closer in this 30-lap feature.
Indeed it will. The pace truck is going to pull away imminently, and we'll get to see how these drivers suss out the circuit. A very different circuit to how it was when we started the night. Looks like the drivers have voted not to reset the track coming into the A main. So we're going to be seeing a lot of line experimentation, and B, the inside probably having the advantage early on.
Yes, certainly. It's going to be quite interesting to see what happens as the race goes on. You might see drivers running up at the top side. You might see some running right down on the bottom and risking it really, really hard against that inside wall. But we'll see what happens. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? It's going to be really rough up on that top side by the looks of it. Possibly could see that middle side come through as well, like we've seen in the last few rounds. And looking up in turns 3 and 4, there is a little bit of a fresh patch as well through 3 and 4. So that middle line might just work a little bit.
Yeah, might just indeed. Looking forward to seeing who decides to use that, because it does seem that Tim Ryan, by and large, enjoys running the high line around tracks like this, willing to go down to the inside when necessary. But drivers like Joel Berkeley seem to really prefer the inside to the outside. And it takes almost a completely different car setup in order to achieve that. You have to think about your wing angles. You have to think about the stagger, that is the difference in circumference between the front and rear tires. That's going to completely change the behavior of the car depending on whether you're low or high.
Yeah, certainly. You've got to kind of tailor the car to where you want to run and what the track's doing. Obviously, if you're going to be wanting to run up high on that cushion, you're going to want to probably tighten the car. Obviously, less stagger and close wheel spacing on the right rear and that sort of stuff. Possibly a higher gearing as well, just because you're going to be having a lot more momentum on the exits. Or if you're going to be running low, you might want to run a slightly lower gearing just to keep your momentum up through the corners, or tighten the wing up so you've got a little bit more drive off the corner. It's really all about just making sure you're not going to end up with too much oversteer at the end of the day.
Yeah, too much oversteer is one of the biggest enemies at Williams Grove. This track already has incredibly sharp turns. You need a pointy car in order to navigate them properly, but it's very easy to go overboard. Down goes the hammer of David Heilemann, and we are racing here in the Super F Series Spares Silver Cup at Williams Grove. Heilemann leads into turn one. That's a problem for Tim Ryan up on the high line, and he's put himself all the way back into fourth place, facing pressure from Jock Goodyear and Clayton Davies. Meanwhile, up into second and third, it's Brett Wheeler and Joel Berkeley who are fighting it out massively for that second spot on the podium. Side by side between Goodyear and Davies into turn one as Danny Vassell finds the wall. That was big. And the yellow flag is out.
Yeah, car spun at turn one. Aston Hurley, by the looks of it, having a moment just clipping the inside. No, he didn't actually clip the inside. We just got a little bit of tap from the car of Brad O'Brien. So unfortunate there, but nevertheless, first caution, so it's no surprise.
Yes, indeed. And this is a bit of an out-of-body experience for us, because last round at USA Speedway, we didn't get a single caution. Here's the onboard view from this particular incident on board with Aston Hurley, and coming into turn one is where you're going to see things get a bit awkward for him. Slides it into turn one and then just gets a tap there from from Brad O'Brien, and round he goes. Very unfortunate for Aston.
And everybody actually did a very good job to avoid him there being parked in the middle of the road. It's very, very easy for everybody to sort of panic and possibly end up running into him. So really good job by everybody to avoid him. And when you're in that sort of situation that Hurley was in, it's really, really scary, and you just can't do anything about it. And you just have to sit there and hope that no one actually hits you.
Yeah, as a result of that incident, Brad O'Brien deemed at fault. He's been given an end-of-line penalty by race control. He will be starting at the back once we get going again. And it looks like another car traveling a little slowly. Aston Hurley there, getting back up, getting his lap back, as a matter of fact. He'll come round and come towards the rear of the field, so he has another chance here to make it to the checkered flag, which is good to see.
Yeah, certainly, and keep that lap as well. So he's got every chance to try and recover from the unfortunate incident that he's had. He's not going to have any damage by the looks of it, so going to be having a nice clean car to try and recover his way up the field. But this is going to be really interesting off the start. This is going to help Tim Ryan a little bit after making contact with that outside wall into turn one on lap one, but really is going to allow Jock Goodyear to possibly take advantage of this being on the inside.
Yes, indeed. Well, Brett Wheeler is going to be starting on the inside up at the front here as the pace truck pulls into the pits. Tim Ryan going very high on the start. He's looking to try and straighten up this run as much as possible. Away goes Wheeler, and a good run from Ryan, but not quite enough to get the run on Heilemann into turn one as they come back in for the second time. Berkeley now defending against Heilemann for second place. It looks like David has the run down the straight. Big jostling of cars behind him, though. Goodyear under immense pressure from Clayton Davies as Tim Ryan tries his best to find a spot.
You know, 3 wide through turn three just before, so it's all going on just inside this top 5 here between Davies, Goodyear, Ryan, and even Bradley Sanders getting in there as well, as he's trying the inside now to try and find a way past him, Ryan, but Ryan's probably going to drive around the outside here down the front straight, but it's all going on at the moment for that final podium position between Goodyear, Heilemann, and Berkeley, the 3 teammates all scrapping it out.
Yes, indeed. Brett Wheeler, it seems, has jetted away in the lead as we get another caution. There's been an incident somewhere on the track. It looks like it might have been Caden Brown on the receiving end of a hit from Dylan DeBono. We'll be getting a modem simulation replay here for you now, and it happened in the middle of turn 1. Just another one of those things where the driver behind you fires it in, but then you lose a little momentum. He tries getting you on the exit, and then there's the ever so slightest tap, and around he goes.
Yeah, really unfortunate there for Caden Brown, and just sort of probably DeBono just didn't quite not to expect to get such a better run than him. So yeah, unfortunate there for DeBono, and will be sent to the back of the line due to being deemed at fault for that. But nevertheless, it's been a really hotly contested fight at the front of the field.
Yeah, certainly has. We've only made it 6 laps in now. But this front of the field fight looks like it's going to continue for quite some time to come. Brett Wheeler obviously showing that he has the start pinned down perfectly, and with some very nice consistency once he got out to the front. But Joel Berkeley, we know how much of a hard racer he is, and David Heilemann, certainly one of the drivers you want to look for when it comes to drivers who are quick in the 360 sprint car here on iRacing. So many ways that this could potentially go. Jock Goodyear has kept himself very well placed up in that top 4. But Tim Ryan, it seems, has moved backwards a little bit. He'll want to try and fix that.
Yeah, he certainly will. He's dropped back a little bit. Seems to be struggling as well with a little bit of pace. Just can't quite find a way up to the front of the field. I do wonder if he's maybe got some slight damage from that contact on lap 1 when he hit that outside wall, but who knows? He'll really need to try and do this, well, recover some points here, because Joel Berkeley at the moment is going to be taking some points off him and closing that gap ever more to him in the championship.
Exactly right. That's something that Tim Ryan won't want at all. But we'll come around now to start our next phase of racing. Brett Wheeler putting the power down in a very controlled start between himself and Joel Berkeley. Berkeley trying to fire it around the outside, in turn 1. Goodyear staying with them for that 3rd spot, but Ryan versus Heilemann behind them. Heilemann holding the inside. Tim Ryan running the wall all the way up the top with Jock Goodyear. It looks like he may have just covered Heilemann off when he needs to.
Yeah, he might have just in contact with Heilemann just behind, and Heilemann's getting hit left, right, and centre, and he's managed to just bring that one back under control. So Heilemann going to drop all the way to just inside the top 10, but going to put a big slide job on Damien Rasmussen to try and recover, and they're all scrapping 3 and 4 wide through the back.
Yeah, it was contact with Clayton Davies that put Heilemann back there, but oh goodness me, we could get another caution here potentially if they can't get going. It looks like Damien Rasmussen, despite that slight spin, has managed to get going again. But Cruz McVie, Aston Hurley, Caden Brown, Gavin Sadler, Devin Butts, all of these guys fighting for the last couple of positions in the top 10. You see Devin Butts in the hot pink car firing into turn 1. He has got his hands full with a bunch of very angry men behind him.
Yeah, he certainly does, and it's very busy back there as Butts has a slide job from Gavin Sadler thrown at him, but Sadler just can't quite get the move done at the end, unfortunately, but nevertheless, he'll try again at some other point. And Heilemann on the recovery at the moment, using that highline to his advantage, and same with Clayton Davies, trying to make it work, but just doesn't quite seem to have the ultimate pace at the moment.
Yeah, Heilemann's doing an all right job of advancing himself forward. He's just put the move on Bradley Sanders for that 7th spot. And next up is Clayton Davies, the driver that he made contact with, and Davies giving him a very wide berth in turns 1 and 2. But Heilemann behind again in 3 and 4. He'll see if he can make the inside line work. That's Bradley Oldfield just up ahead of them. It looks like Heilemann may just have this here on Bradley Sanders, firing it in ahead and potentially coming out ahead if he can keep the momentum up. But it's getting harder and harder as the laps go by.
Yeah, it certainly is getting harder and harder as the laps go by, as the track starts to slick up even more and just become even less grip out there, so it's really becoming difficult. But Heilemann's doing a fantastic job to recover and is catching right up to the back end of Bradley Oldfield now, who seems to be having a really good run here tonight, so he'll be pretty stoked if he can get a nice result here. But at the front of the field, Jock Goodyear has gone from running the top side to now running the bottom side with the top 3, and Tim Ryan still continuing to try and run the top side right up in the cushion.
Yeah, interesting to see that, and it looks like the vast majority of the top 10 is trying their best to make that work. Not only is Tim Ryan using the high line, but Heilemann is as well, Clayton Davies too. But that top three seems that they really like the inside line. Oh, Jock Goodyear just tried the outside and found the wall for his troubles. He's still going, but that's a little bit of a blip in his record here at Williams Grove.
Yeah, it certainly is. But Heilemann's got Oldfield just ahead of him. Well, he's actually got past him. So Heilemann up another place and now into the top 5 and on the hunt for the car of Tim Ryan, who's still continuing to run that top side. 20.616 that last time by. Compare that to the car of Joel Berkeley with a 20.2 and a 20.4 for Brett Wheeler. So that bottom side really quick at the moment.
Yes, certainly is. It seems like it is one of the places to be around this circuit. And the fights back in the field are showing that. We're looking at Aston Hurley versus Devin Butts here. There goes Hurley into the wall. And that is not going to be good for him. Dylan DeBono and Brad O'Brien just about collecting him, but all three dusting themselves off and continuing on. But that fight for just outside the top 10 looking incredibly intense at the moment.
Yeah, it certainly is. They're all trying their best to try and find their way up the order of positions, but nevertheless, still going green here at the moment. It's been a while since we've had that last caution, but at the moment, doing a fantastic job at the moment up the front is Brett Wheeler trying to hold on, but just behind, Bradley Oldfield is not letting David Heilemann get away.
Yeah, he isn't. Bradley Oldfield running the inside, firing it into the turns. Is looking like some very good pace from Bradley Oldfield at the moment, but Heilemann sticking very steadfastly to that outside line, using it to his advantage to launch himself down the straight. But you can see with Oldfield, the lighter clay, that is much grippier, so it allows him a slightly better run out of the corner. Or he might have fired it in a bit too hard there. You can see how many ruts are starting to form around the track as it wears through.
You can start to see that it's getting very bumpy down the front and back straight as the track starts to slicken up more and more and get more usage on it. But that battle at the front of the field has really closed up, and Joel Berkeley is all over the back end of Brett Wheeler now.
He absolutely is, and this is looking like a move is incoming for the lead of this race. Joel Berkeley trying to hold the outside and coming down to the bottom to try and straighten up the exit, but it looked like Wheeler was ready for him there. Can Berkeley fire it even harder into 1 and 2? No, he cannot, but it looks like he does have the power down nicely on the exit. So it looks like this is going to be a very difficult job for Joel Berkeley to accomplish, especially as they're coming up to 6 laps to go here.
Yeah, they're actually starting to catch lap traffic as well. So traffic's going to start to play a factor in this battle for the lead, but all the drivers will be aware of the fact that the leaders are coming through, so they shouldn't hold them up too much. But obviously Berkeley running out of laps here and is going to need to try and make a move at some point. He goes to the high side in 3 and 4 to see whether he can get anything out of it. Gets some pretty average run, so not seeming to work at the moment. But Brett Wheeler's going to get held up by lap traffic here.
Oh no, that's Aston Hurley there making contact with Wheeler and Joel Berkeley, both of our leaders. So both of them having a little bit of a scare there. They managed to get through. They're up on Damian Rasmussen now. This could be another thing that defines how this race goes. 4 laps to go. Rasmussen fires it up into the wall on the outside, and Wheeler continuing to protect this lead from Joel Berkeley. Berkeley goes straight to the outside. Now he's saying it's time for the mother of all runs down the front stretch. Can he get the power down? Well, it looks like he got the run in the initial phase, but Brett Wheeler managed to get him in the second phase, and he still holds the inside in 1 and 2. Well, what Berkeley needs to do now is effectively the impossible.
Yeah, he certainly does. He's trying everything he can. He's throwing everything that he knows in the book at Brett Wheeler to try and do it, and he's driven around the outside of Brett Wheeler down at the front straight. Is he going to get it done in 1 and 2? He's just ahead, and it looks like he's finally got the job done.
Oh, wow. That was probably one of the longest overtaking moves in history, as now we come up on the final lap. White flag in the air for these guys. It's going to be very close for this lead now between Joel Berkeley and Brett Wheeler. Berkeley has won the last few features on the trot, and it looks like he's going to repeat the feat here if Brett Wheeler can't do a slide job up the inside. He holds the inside, but he cannot get the power down in time. There goes Joel Berkeley across the line. He takes victory at Williams Grove, and that is going to help his championship in Spadefalls.
It absolutely is going to help Joel Berkeley a lot, and going to be still actually one to go by the sounds of it, according to race control. So this is going to be the checkered flag this time by for Joel Berkeley. Brett Wheeler not going to be able to do enough, and he will take the win, will Joel Berkeley. And the race for fourth is on, and David Heilemann has just managed to pip Tim Ryan.
Oh my goodness, just at the very line. Less than a tenth between them. What a finish between them. It looks like Heilemann had the outside. Ryan trying to hold the inside. Here's a modem simulation replay. And there goes Tim Ryan out of the final corner. And this is actually a replay of that last lap. Heilemann running the outside. He looks so poised and controlled up there on the top. Tim Ryan not usually where he'd like to be. So there goes Heilemann. You have a look at just how hard he's driving the car into the corners, and that gave him the momentum he needed across the line for that fourth spot. So Tim Ryan's championship lead hurt even more.
Yeah, it certainly is. And Joel Berkeley will be absolutely loving this, at the fact that Tim actually lost one place out in the end. So great race there by Berkeley to end up taking the win ahead of Brett Wheeler and the car of Jock Goodyear to put it in at P3 as well. So really good fight overall and a really good race tonight.
Yeah, excellent stuff all round here in the Oceanic Dirt Sim Events 360 Power Series. Finally, now we come to post-race interviews, and our top drivers will be in the box with us. First joining us is Brett Wheeler. G'day, Brett. Welcome to the commentary box. You led for much of that race, unfortunately having to settle for second at the end, but that was a great battle between you and Joel Berkeley.
That was fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It sucks to come away with second, but in the end, I'm just I sort of pick and choose, and when I can jump in here and run the 360. So one of my favourite tracks. So I figured I'd come and give it a shot, and come away with second. Can't be not disappointed by all means.
How was the track evolving through the course of the night? Because it looked like it was death to drive out there at the end.
You just had to have a lot of throttle control, use your brake, and most of all, use your head. If you'd done that, I had my car set up for the bottom side, and I was never gonna get away from it. So track played nice on the bottom. It stayed there for most part of the race, but I think those last 5 laps, Joel just sort of caught the outside. He caught the cushion a couple of times in 3 and 4, and I think that's what won in the race. But hats off to Joel. He was a better man tonight, better driver tonight.
Well, nonetheless, you can be very satisfied with a second place finish, Brett. Before we let you go, any shout outs, any sponsors? Who gets it done for you?
Well, ODSE, Brady, for all that he does, as well as Bob, Super F Series for coming on board for tonight. You guys at SimSpeed, plus all the team at United Sim Sports, Valvoline, Too Easy Finance, West End Mazda, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, and Ultimate Dirt TV, and everybody for watching.
Thank you very much, Brett Wheeler, your second place man here today, and stood by with Cameron Dance is our race winner.
Well, I'm going to ask the first question, and Joel's going to hate me for this, but are you disappointed with the win today?
No, I can't be disappointed with the win today. I've had 3 second places in like a week, so I had to get rid of the bridesmaid stat for once.
Yeah, you certainly did. And you did it in fantastic style to drive it round the outside. Obviously, Grove very, very much renowned for the bottom side to be quite strong. Did you expect the top side to actually be as strong as it was?
Look, all I was there trying to do to start the race was just look after the car and not in the inside wall, as you know, Cam. It's pretty difficult it's pretty easy to hit a wall here on the inside. But just wait till we got the call for 10 to go, and just had to search around a little bit and put some more pace on. But yeah, found the top in 3 and 4. Genuinely, the Grove brings the top back in 3 and 4, so had to try it, and then a couple laps out worked out, so that's why I decided to commit to it.
Well, you certainly did make it work in the end, but with the next round up, it's going to be quite interesting, and that points gap is a lot more narrow. So, are you hoping to try and continue this streak?
Well, look, hopefully so. I think that's 4 wins this season out of 7 or something like that. I mean, probably should have had a win at Volusia in the second round, but someone decided different on that. But that's in the past. So, but focus on with I think there's 3 weeks to go. Is there?
Yes, 3 more rounds
Yes.
after this.
So I guess just try and close the points gap. I know I might take over the points lead, but the more difficult part is with drop rounds, I actually fall about 90 points behind. So I just need to keep on having these nights and potting away points, and who knows, I might be here at the end of the season.
Well, very much, certainly. Well, before we let you go, just any thanks and any sponsors you want to give any shouts to?
Yeah, look, it's a massive thanks to guys at Slick Sims or everyone else out there, everyone that ran tonight. Good run by all of us, and yeah, I don't know. Thanks for Bob Brady for hosts and you guys for broadcasting every week, and yeah, well, bring on next week 50 lapper at Limaland, I think it is.
Well, there you have it, Reese. Your feature winner in the box tonight, and pretty happy by the sounds of it instead of being disappointed. But nevertheless, sounding like Limaland is next, and going to be another bull ring.
Yeah, goodness me, good. Limaland Speedway. I've driven around that track more than a couple of times over the past couple of months doing research for this series, and it's kind of like Fairbury for me. What even is this track? It's incredibly tight, incredibly very, very slow average speeds, but you're driving it incredibly hard over the course of the entire circuit. I'm certainly looking forward to that. That is going to be next week, very same time, very same place here on the SimSpeed TV channel on YouTube and on Twitch. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us over this night of racing. It was certainly an entertaining one, but what else can we expect from the Oceanic Dirt Sim Events 360 Power Series? A big thanks to Super F Series Spares for your support. The winner of the Silver Cup at the Grove was Joel Berkeley. What's going to happen at Limaland? We'll find out next week.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my god!
Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys, I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!